Hello, my name is Bailey Anderson. I am a accommodation coordinator with SDS. The title of this presentation is Time Management and Organization During Virtual Learning. This is a collaboration between University Counseling Services and Student Disability Services. And I am here with two really amazing humans who are going to introduce themselves. Vicki?
Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Hauser, also an accommodations coordinator in Student Disability Services. And I'm going to pass it to Heidi.
Thank you. I'm Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social worker and staff therapist at the University Counseling Service. And I'm going to pass it back to Bailey to get us started today.
All right. So I'm going to start us with chatting a little bit about how to read a syllabus. This slide has that text, and then it also has my name, the fact that I have an MFA and that I'm with SDS on it. So this first slide says the nuts and bolts of the syllabus. Here I want to chat just a little bit about where do you start with the syllabus. The syllabus acts a little bit like a roadmap. It is a guide for the semester. So starting with that roadmap, gathering the syllabus, finding all of your syllabi, and understanding the importance of that syllabus because it is, in fact, a roadmap. It gives you a feel for the class. It is also an agreement that you're making with the professor. So once you've gathered that, thinking about how you're going to review that, the next part of the slide says, how do you contact your instructor? Where are their office hours? What are the major assignments? What are the key due dates? What are the grading policies? Each of these pieces help you understand how the course is set up and designed and how the instructor expects you to kind of meet that expectation. The next part is kind of the next step. Once you've found your syllabi, gathered them together, reviewed each of them, copying the due dates onto your own personal calendar allows you to move from having the material in many places to centralizing it into one place. And then from there, beginning to create to-do lists and planning out your weeks based on that information. With that, make sure to be flexible and prepared to revisit your calendar and readjust as the semester continues on. So this process doesn't just happen once, but you're continuing evolving and being really flexible and improving throughout the entire semester. So from there, one key part of the syllabus tells you a lot about how to reach out and interact with your instructor. So this next slide really focuses on that. Reaching out to your instructor, there are a few key tips that we might suggest. If you want to reach out to your instructor, check to see your instructor or TA's office hours. These office hours are sort of like drop-in hours. They're really designed to invite students to come in and have conversations. They're meant for you to go to. Send an email, introduce yourself. Include what course you're enrolled in. Oftentimes, instructors are teaching many, many courses, and it can be helpful to know which course are we talking about here. Suggest a meeting time during office hours if you can, and suggest 3 other times you could meet outside of office hours if office hours don't work for you. With that, come to office hours prepared. It's okay to bring a list of questions or things you want to work on, and having those prepared helps show the instructor that you're really invested in the class and make sure you remember the things you want to talk about. Make sure to recognize your instructor might hold other jobs and roles and give them time to respond. Usually we suggest about 48 hours. Keep trying to connect and look for other resources at the same time. The department might have a lot of different things going on, including supplemental instruction. There's also a great site called Tutor Iowa that you can look at. So those are some of the key ways to get you started in your class. I'm gonna toss it over to Heidi for the next part.
All right, thank you, Bailey. And we're going to transition and talk a little bit about time management strategies. This slide just simply has that title and then my name, Heidi Schmidt, my title, LISW, and then UCS, the University Counseling Service. Next slide, please. Here we go. So I'm going to start just talking a little bit about like what is time management. And really the way I define time management is how you plan and organize your time and what priorities you're setting. What are your priorities? And I think that's a good thing to reflect on at the beginning of the semester, is really structuring your time and deciding like what do you want your priorities during that structured time to be. Being comfortable setting boundaries as you're structuring that time. And what I mean by that is setting boundaries for this is when I'm going to work. This is when I want to take breaks. This is when I'm going to have meals. And you really can create and set those boundaries by creating a schedule and being consistent with that schedule. And so in the schedule, making sure you're including 3 times to eat during the day or whatever amount feels right for you, time to sleep. So scheduling 8 hours or more of that time to sleep, scheduling downtime. When we think about creating a schedule, really consider creating a daily schedule that's kind of got a general outline of this is what I'm going to do on a daily to day basis. Create like a weekly schedule that has like your weekly kind of things to do, your weekly to-do list, and then a monthly or a semester sort of broader calendar, kind of what Bailey had described before, looking at your syllabus, writing down your due dates. Use your syllabus. I really love this quote here, and I think it does a good example of describing time management. It's not enough to be busy. So are the ants. The question is, what are we busy about? Know what you're busy about during the day. Know what you're going to be doing. And again, kind of reflecting Bailey, be flexible with that busyness, but have that kind of flexible plan in place. And I think that's something that a lot of like faculty and staff do as well. And I'm going to hold up my little to-do list. This is my flexible weekly to-do list. And then I have a daily to-do list on my calendar or on my computer. And so on this next slide, when this is a really good of an example of how a daily to-do list can translate into kind of a more like a weekly sort of to-do list and highlighting priorities. And so this first example page here, looks like a sticky note, has like the list of everything that this person needs to do in the day. The priorities are highlighted. There's times written down on here. And then on the next sticky note, they've kind of scheduled it all out. From 9 to 10, this is what they're going to do. 11 to 12. And you can see where they've really prioritized like A, B, C. These are the things that I need to get done today versus maybe these are things that I just want to get done today. And so consider like, how do you best structure your time? Would a to-do list like this be helpful for you to set up at the beginning of every week or every day? Is there other structures that maybe could be more helpful for you? Some other tips for time management, and I think I referenced this a little bit earlier, but like schedule breaks. It's okay to set aside time for self-care and time to be social. I have this kind of quote on here: you can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first. You're going to be more effective as a student if you are taking care of your own personal needs. So eating, sleeping, socialization, all those human needs that we all have. Be realistic with what you need to get done. Don't plan to read 400 pages in a day. Kind of setting yourself up to not get those sort of things done, and then perhaps feelings of frustration, and that could ultimately affect your motivation the next day. Break your tasks into smaller chunks. Make things feel manageable to you. Again, that's going to help to increase your motivation. Kind of snowballing, getting one thing done, then the next thing done. You're going to feel more motivated because you're going to be feeling more accomplished. And then follow through. It's not enough just to set up the structure. We actually have to follow the structure. So I'm going to pass it next off to Vicki.
Thanks, Heidi. We're going to end this discussion talking about some organizational strategies, and it lists that title on this slide as well as my name, my degrees, Master's in Arts and Counseling and a Master's of Education, and then SDS. And so on this slide, I've titled it Tips to Improve Your Organizational Skills. So looking in general, what are things that you can do to overall organize your time, your space, your effort. So kind of continuing with the discussion about syllabus and time management, what's that overall organizational pattern? First thing, have a dedicated study space. And it's great to have that dedicated study space, but make sure it's also clean and uncluttered. If you're finding yourself having to search for things, you're going to waste some precious time that you could be using to be more productive. Next thing is to think about what's the most productive time of day for you to study or get your work done. Maybe there's more than one time, hopefully there is, but if you know you're not a first thing in the morning type of person, then don't choose that as your time to be productive. When you're studying, do the very best you can to avoid interruptions. So back to that dedicated study space, it's clean, it's uncluttered, and quiet on top of that. So put your phone on do not disturb. Don't return emails during that time. If you're devoting yourself to studying, then that's what you're doing during that time. And stay off of social media so that you're not tempted to look at email or look at something else online to take you off your task. I'm going to reiterate what both Bailey and Heidi have talked about with keeping a calendar as well as a to-do list. And I've got a little bit more on the next slide about that to-do list. Keeping your course materials organized will help. Where are you storing your notes for class? Are you organizing everything by class, including your syllabus, your notes, your assignment due dates? Are you then transferring those due dates into the calendar? How is it looking best for your organizational habits? Check your email regularly, just not when you're studying, because we don't want you to have those interruptions happening. But checking your email regularly is so important for the notifications that come from your courses, correspondence that comes from your instructors to you and your classmates, etc. Then know your personal limits and when to say no. It's only going to add to the stress of your day if you can't set those limits for yourself and know when you've already got enough on your plate that you can't say yes to one more thing. Even though we want to, we're only going to, in the end, jeopardize getting the things done that we need to get done during the course of that day, the course of that week. And then at the end of the week or the very beginning of the week, take time each week to review what happened during the previous week and then plan for the next week to come. And then to end with just another slide, it's titled Getting Organized. I kind of alluded to it in the previous slide that we want to keep our stress levels down. So the number one reason to think about getting organized is it will drastically reduce your stress levels. Think about an unorganized, cluttered work area where you have little Post-it notes all over with things you need to do. If that's happened to you and you've went ahead and organized them and put them in a to-do list, the relief of doing that takes that stress away. And I can tell you, as someone who did that themselves yesterday, what a great way to start the week. So the less stress means you'll feel better, do better in your classes, and have time to do the things that you enjoy as well, and not feel like all I do is study, sleep, study. Another way to reduce that stress, as I talked about, and we've all talked about, keep both a calendar and a to-do list. Calendars keep track of events, things that are going to occur at a specific day or time. To-do list, keep track of tasks. Those are the things you need to accomplish. There is a digital to-do list that I refer students to called Todoist. So you can definitely check that out online if you're looking for something digital. And then another resource that I really like is College Info Geek. And that's a website as well as a podcast and YouTube videos by Thomas Frank. And so if you just do a search for organization, you're going to find tons of information on that from Thomas Frank. So that ends my part of the presentation, and we just want to thank you so much for giving us your attention, and have a wonderful day.